Okay, so we are now live on YouTube. So again, hello everybody. It's good to see you all today. I'm looking forward to this another exciting week, bi-weekly event, because we do this every 2 weeks with transmissions from Adronis. So again, we did this 2 weeks ago, what is called the Return of Adronis, but we are terming it as transmissions from Adronis. So again, if you're tuning into this now, you'll be able to tune into the recording afterwards. We're going to be working for about an hour and a half to 2 hours today, around that time, to having this Q&A, free Q&A with Adronis. Now, you can also ask any kind of questions you like, whether it's personal, semi-personal, or general. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube right now, you would not be able to ask Adronis a question through the YouTube chat. You have to look at the pinned comment that I put on the YouTube chat, and you can just click on the Zoom link that will bring you into Zoom, and then you can ask Adronis a question here. So I am only taking questions through the live Zoom attendees today. So why don't we go ahead and get things rolling? I'm not drinking Kool-Aid, by the way. This is vitamin water. It's a mineral water, actually. Okay. I don't drink Kool-Aid, just to let you guys know. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with today's broadcast. And we're going to start off firstly just doing some heart rate variability breathing. And we're just going to do some grounding work as well, too. We're going to do a little bit of hackalout, just to getting ourselves centered in a low vital state. And again, that is the most receptive state that you want to be in when you're connecting with Adronis, because now you're going to feel something a lot more deeper as you connect with him and as he connects together with you. So just get yourself nice and relaxed, nice and calm, nice and centered, making sure the body, the spine is nice and straight. And we're just going to start off with some heart rate variability breath. We're going to do 10 rounds of this. And we're just going to be breathing into the nose for 4 seconds, breathing out to the nose for 6 seconds. Okay, so we'll begin now. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Last time, and in, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let yourself relax, breathing normally. And now we're going to try the hackalout practice. So I was talking about this on Friday. If you guys were tuning into the Friday webcast, you were TV Live, just giving an introduction relating to some inner practices, and one of them was hackalout. So what we're doing is we're just taking our 2 index fingers, just like this, and we're just moving them until they basically sit into the edge of our peripheral vision. So looking at the left side of your peripheral, you should see the edge of your index finger there. Looking at the right side of your peripheral, right at the edge, you should see your right index finger there. And even though you're looking forward, I want you just to be aware of the left and right index fingers at the edge of your peripheral vision. So just take a minute and doing this now. And now you're just dropping your fingers. And I want you just to be aware of kind of like an anchor point on the left side of your peripheral vision, right? Maybe you see a dot, maybe you see a part of your blinds, maybe on the right side you see a lamp, anything like that that you feel would represent your peripherals, something like an anchor point that's helping you to be aware of your left and right peripheral vision. I want you just to do that now, just looking ahead and just being aware if there's an object or just a part of your space that you can identify that represents the soft edge of your left and right peripheral vision. I want you just to stay there for a moment. Okay. And now I want you just to be aware of your breath. Okay? I just want you to be aware of your natural rhythm of breathing. You're not trying to control your breath at all. You're just being aware of the natural rhythm, the natural flow of your breath. And just be aware of this now. Okay. Now I want you just to be aware of everything that you are hearing, all sounds within your space, no matter how subtle. You are aware of all sounds within your space. Doing this now. Okay, and now just being aware of everything that you are touching and everything that is touching you. So feeling what is touching your skin, feeling the clothes on your body, feeling yourself inside your body, feeling yourself touching the chair. I want you to be aware of everything that is touching you and everything that you are touching right now. And now just being aware of everything that you are tasting, being aware of the taste of your saliva in your mouth, right? Anything that you are tasting right now. I want you to be aware of that now. Right. And now I want you to be aware of all five senses at the same time. Everything you see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. I want you to be aware of it all at once, right now. And take a deep breath in and deep breath out. And relax. How is your mind feeling after doing some of this Hakala? Feeling nice and calm, nice and centered, nice and relaxed, right? That's the key, right? So you're getting yourself into a nice, open, receptive, calm, and relaxed state of being. And you're in that good form of vibration to align with Adronis when it comes through. So that will be our next step now, is we're going to go ahead and shift gears, and then we're going to go into inner communication with Adronis, bringing him through. So he may give a brief introduction, and then after the introduction, I will leave it completely to Killian. And like I said, when you guys want to ask Adronis a question, just making sure you're pressing the raise hand button. Okay, if you want to have an audio question for Adronis, making sure you're clicking on the raise hand button, which is right next to your name. And then Killian will come around and he'll bring you in, right? And just listen to his instructions as he moderates today's event. So thank you again, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to doing again another wonderful broadcast here today with transmissions from Adronis. I hope you all enjoy it. It goes for everybody on YouTube as well too. Hope you're enjoying this as well too. So I'll go ahead and take a moment to bring Adronis in and we'll get started. Here we go. Hera, Soul Star, Sirius Adronis We are here at this time. We bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. We would like to thank each and every single one of you at this time and remind you that all that we shall provide today is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very hearts, beings, and souls. So therefore, tuning into the transmissions of Sirius here and now, to which this is the vibrational frequency to which we abide to. It is, as you would say, a consciousness radio transmission in a humorous analogy, to which you are the radio device and you are tuning into the broadcast that we are now, therefore, radiating outwards to you. So therefore, we thank you very much for the interaction. We understand that the term of this particular transmission is referred to as transmissions from Adronis. So therefore, as you start to connect a lot more deeper in regards to not what you would understand as your conscious mind, your conscious self, that is what you would refer to as the autopilot mode of yourself. The conscious mind simply represents an autopilot. Really, the conscious mind is still just a part of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is still a part of the mind altogether. But you're tuning out of the idea of the conscious mind, and you're moving much more into what you would term as the subconscious mind or the greater mind altogether. When you understand that you are experiencing a communication of this nature, it's not something that's coming through the autopilot. You see, that's more of the hypnotic trance state that you move yourselves into day to day through your activity. You're in a state of autopilot because your thoughts are wandering. You're worried about the past, you're concerned about the future, you're concerned about a memory that you have, you're concerned about imagination, and this is what's keeping you in the grind relating to the nature of the conscious self. It's the autopilot mode. And so what we're encouraging you to do is to get out of the autopilot mode. You are moving much more into the idea of the grand mind, where everything is available to you because you're present, because you're here, and because you're now. As you're working with the grand mind, everything that exists is available to you. It's like looking at a library. Rather than feeling like you're just going to a particular shelf and you're just tuning into a particular book, we would say, put that book down, go to the front door of the library, and just be aware of every single book that exists in this grand library at the same time. And that is what happens when you're present. When you are present, every form of knowledge, everything that exists relating to the mind is now available to you. You are realizing that you are the library itself, that you are every single word that has been written down upon the page of every single book that's in the library. Not only that, but you are the librarian. You are everything that exists. This is you, again, working together with the nature of the mind because you're tuning yourself out of the autopilot. You see, the autopilot is designed to function itself linearly. It's a linear mechanism. And as long as you have that linear mechanism, it's going to wander. It's going to be that rampaging monkey that's not going to sit still. What about this in the past? What about when this happened? Well, what about if this happens in the future? What about my imagination about this situation? What about the past relating to this person? So on and so on and so forth. And that's what's keeping you in this grind. It's not enabling all of the gears of yourself to move in a state of harmony. Your gears are grinding because you're wondering about all these things. You're basically trailing off into all of these different states of perceptions that are only causing you to be further distracted. It's when you look on your television sets. It's when you look upon your internet. It's when you're listening to your radio, when you're reading your newspapers and so forth. All of these different things are basically grinding the gears because you're looking at yourself too linearly. Because there will be those of you who will ask us, well, Adronis, how is it that you are able to live where you're able to understand and look at all these different things at the same time? It's because we do not have an autopilot. We do not have a conscious mind that is constantly grinding its gears, constantly distracted by the hypnosis relating to all of these things that have happened in a past or happened and it might happen in a future. We don't exist in that way. Everything is simultaneously coexistent to where we exist. This is why we're able to tune into all these things. But because we have a vocal transmission device to which Brad's vessel represents, we are only able to truly explain this to you linearly. It is when you are able to tune into the natural transmission of ourselves that you will see something more, that you will experience something more, that you will understand simultaneity, synchronistically, here and now. And that is what we encourage you to tune into. So therefore, when Brad is doing these exercises together with you, where you're keeping the mind completely still, and you tune into our transmission, you will see a multiplicity of facets pertaining to the greater mind. It's like looking at a honeycomb. It's like looking at all of these cells in the honeycomb, and you're seeing everything taking place here and now. Things happening here and now. This is where we exist. This is the vantage point to where we hold. We are constantly in observation of the grand honeycomb of the mind, being aware of all these things. And there will be times too where we will simply leave the mind space and we will simply just be. And that is also very important as well, because that's the natural nature, we would say, of yourself, is to simply be, is to simply just be here and simply be now. But the mind is always available to you. It is the library. It is every single book that is on the shelf, and you are able to read every single book that is on every single shelf at the same time when you learn to tune out of the monkey mind, when you learn to tune out of the conscious autopilot. And that is what we recommend all of you to do, is continue to work with these methods that Brad has shared with you, relating to the idea of Hakelau, relating to the idea of keeping yourself present. It is when you are present that you are at your most powerful. And as you continue to do this frequently, every single day, working to keeping yourself present, everything comes to you. That's how we exist. We don't have a yesterday and we don't have a tomorrow. We don't have a schedule. We have no schedule to follow. We therefore accommodate ourselves all the time based on what the moment itself brings us. Something comes into the moment, we attend to it. Something else comes into the moment, we attend to it. Something else comes into the moment, we attend to it. We attend to everything synchronistically, simultaneously. That is the nature of our being. And that is what we can also say, you have the capability of doing this. Linearity is nothing but a perspective, because you are truly not a linear being. You think you are because of the trance-based hypnosis of the conscious self. You think that you're a linear being, that I have it yesterday, and then I have it today, and then I have it tomorrow. That I have it this morning, I have it this afternoon, and I have it this evening. And I have the nighttime where I go to sleep, and then I wake up in the morning. Well, all right, that's fine. But when you truly look into the idea of being here and now, you do not sense a passage of time. Everything is just here. Everything is just now. You are present with everything. You are present with the all. That's the power that you hold. And so what we're telling you is that truthfully, you are not linear beings. You are just as simultaneously coexistent as ourselves, but you haven't realized this yet. You work again and you become addicted to the mind. You become addicted to the thoughts. You become addicted to your memories. You become identity with the mind. And that's what's preventing you from seeing who you really are. So by being present, by being here and now, and therefore connecting to the transmission that we are radiating to you right now, you will understand the simultaneity and synchronicity of yourself, because you will truly realize you are nonlinear. All right. We thank you for our opportunity here to communicate all of this with you. And we will now go ahead and take a moment to adjust and bring forward Killian to enable a question and answer period to begin. Killian, please feel free to begin in any way you see fit.
Thank you, Adronis. That was an incredible introduction. We really appreciate that. We're going to go ahead this time and start with some of the written questions, and then we will move on to those who want to speak in person. I'm going to jump around a little bit this time, and we're going to start here with Priya, who asks, "Hi, Adronis. Can you talk about the energy of laughter? Do other beings and yourself experience laughter in a similar manner that humans do?" Thank you.
That is a very good question. Yes, we certainly do. In fact, we would say, in the greatest way that you could understand laughter, in the joy that it brings, we're laughing all the time. You see, it's laughter without the idea of having to laugh. You have to look at yourself and saying, what does laughter bring to you? Laughter is an adjustment to a higher frequency. That's all it is. You see, the laughter is the effect. But what you're actually doing through the laughter is you're lifting your frequency. So when you are amused by something, something makes you laugh. What you're doing is you're using that laughter as a vessel. It's a terminal that's bringing you up into a higher state. We would remind all of you, when was the last time you had a really good belly laugh? And when you had that belly laugh, how did you feel afterwards? Well, Adronis, I felt really high. I felt really light. I felt good inside. That's what laughter does. Yes, we do laugh. We do physically laugh, from what we would understand in that sense as our own nature, as our own beingness. We do laugh because laughter is the elevator. It's the elevator that's taking you to the top floor of your bliss. This is why there are certain masters upon your planet that would even do things like laughter yoga, where they're just laughing all the time. And as they're laughing all the time, that elevator is going right to the top floor of their bliss, and they're staying there. So laughter is being the terminal. Laughter is being the conveyance that's helping you to lift your frequency up a great deal higher. We're not talking about nervous laughter. We're not talking about insecure laughter, because that's not actually true laughter. You may feel nervous and you're trying to pretend to laugh because you're holding something back. That's not true laughter. The true laughter, as we stated, is like that good belly laugh. You are amused by something so tremendously. Something just makes you feel so good inside. That elevator of laughter is taking you right to the top floor. And now, before you know it, you're in bliss. So there is such a thing as what you would term as laughter yoga. You're just laughing all the time. You're laughing at everything, and you're laughing at nothing. You could look at a single cloud in the sky and start bursting in laughter. You could look at a single blade of grass upon the field and start bursting in laughter. You can feel a gentle breeze upon your face with the wind and make that a great belly laugh. It's the laughter without the reason to laugh. Because where we exist, we are there. We're in that state of what laughter brings you without having to laugh. But we do laugh, yes, of course. So again, this is what we recommend you do all the time, is that if you instantly want to get yourself into such a blissful state, start laughing. And don't have a reason to laugh. Just laugh for the sake of laughing. All right? Thank you for your question, and have a good laugh.
Thank you so much, Priya. We appreciate your question. Moving on over to Diana now. Question. Thank you, Brad and Adronis. I took a 1-month sabbatical traveling by myself to finish writing some books that I feel will be a game changers in the coaching industry. But in 3 weeks, I have not been able to concentrate on work. All I want to do is be in nature, take long walks, go to the beach, get sun, and meet people. I am feeling disappointed in myself for my lack of productivity. I would love to hear your insights. Thank you.
Well, see, that again is where you're suffering, because the whole idea is all that you want to do is just be productive. You don't want to look into the idea of how you're actually being energized and inspired by wanting to walk in nature, by wanting to feel the connection with your brother, sister nature, with the trees, with the animals, because you are too preoccupied in the idea of being productive. You're too much into action. It's exactly why you're getting the cues to say, take a break. Put the books down, put down the pen, and go out into nature and celebrate the joy, the bliss that nature is bringing you. Because how do you think you get your fuel to continue to create? It all comes through the idea of nature. This is why you're getting that bell ringing into you and say, okay, time to take a break. All I want to do is go out into nature. All I want to do is sit by a tree. All I want to do is feel the bliss and enjoy a walk in nature, because this is charging me up. This is bringing inspiration to me. I feel great in doing this. So if your mind is only caught on the productivity wheel, then that again is you being the monkey once again, and the gears are grinding once again, and you create an emotional situation surrounding the idea that I feel I need to work so much. I need to work this hard. I need to be so incredibly productive. It's not to say that there's not a time and a place for that. The problem is you're spending too much time with doingness, and you're not spending enough time with beingness. It is beingness that is the higher state. And that is where you want to be a great deal of time. So do not feel bad about yourself because you want to go out into nature and you want to recharge yourself and you want to refresh yourself. That's how you heal yourself. That's how you receive inspiration. Nature is an antenna, and it is charging you with all of this pure bliss, so that when you come back home and you pick up the pen again and you start writing, you realize that the writing that you're doing feels effortless, because you're in that state of bliss. It's not the doingness that is the paramount reason here. It is the beingness that is the paramount state, to where through beingness, doingness happens by itself. It's like you're doing without doing. And those come into greater states of bliss. It's that bliss, it's that happiness, it's that joy, it's that refreshment you have when you're walking through nature. And you want to come home and now you feel inspired to write more. But it feels so effortless. It's, as you would say, the time of the day just passes by, and before you know it, you have 50 pages of writing that is all done. Because you're in such bliss when you are writing everything, you are engaged into it, because the writing is being itself. The hand is really just moving itself. The words are naturally coming to you. There's no stuck points. When you try to be overly productive relating to the ego, you're going to get stuck a lot, because the gears are going to grind. This is why we say, whenever you're writing, don't write in autopilot. When you're writing, write with inspiration. When you're writing, be recharged. Feel yourself in that state of bliss, and let the words become themselves. Let the pen of the hand move itself. Let the fingers on the keyboard type itself. That's where your work itself truly is effortless, because you're not even really doing anything. It's just the bliss of your being that's doing all the work. That's what we would suggest. So there's no need to be hard on yourself. It's now that you are illumined past the ignorance of feeling that I need to be more productive, because that's nothing but the ego talking. It's the idea in that sense you can be naturally productive, because you are getting that chiming of the bell to let you know, I want to walk out in nature. I want to refresh myself. I want to rejuvenate myself. I want to be blissed through the nature of the antenna of nature. And then when I come back to my desk and I start doing the work, I feel so happy and so joyful and so blissful. The work is accomplishing itself. That's what you want to consider. All right. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your question. We're going to move on to one more written, and then we will begin to allow people to talk. Just a reminder, when I click on you, you will be unmuted. You will be allowed to talk, and then you will unmute your microphone to speak to Adronis. And now for our final written question from Maria. Hi, Brad and Adronis. What can we as humanity do to improve what is happening on Gaia, especially talking about nature? Thank you.
Work with your own life. Don't feel that you're responsible for changing anyone else's life around, because you're not. You cannot convince anybody that you even exist, let alone trying to convince anybody that they need to change their life around. So if you cannot even convince a person that you exist, how do you expect to change another person's life around? You can't. The greatest way of how you are able to benefit yourself upon your planet is when you work on yourself. When you surrender yourself. and you let go of all tendencies that you know have been, shall we say, the troublemakers that you have been going throughout life. The only reason you experience problems on this planet is because you have bestowed that upon yourself based upon your beliefs, based upon what you hold through conditioning with yourself. It is not about you changing the world. You can't do it. It's not possible. You can only work with your world. And your world is everything that you perceive. And to look in the true nature of perception really can't be stated in words. But what can be stated is that you're looking at all of the falsities. You're looking at the untruths of yourself, and you're clearing those away. Because this is what happens. The majority of you on your planet are suffering. And the reason why you're suffering is because you're constantly in a hypnotic trance through the conscious mode of autopilot, thinking, I need to survive. And if I don't survive, well, then I'm going to kick the bucket. Then I'm going to croak. I'm going to be dead. My body will be lifeless and I will be no more. And that is why you continue to go through the grind of the conscious self. You're seeing all these things outwardly, and so I need to correct this. I need to correct this person. I need to correct this situation. You're looking at it in the wrong direction. You only need to correct yourself with all of the falsehoods, with all of the untruths, the conditions, the beliefs that have created lies and deceptions within yourself. Because all you're doing is you're living through those lies. And when you live through lies, this is what we call survival. You're surviving because you're suffering. You're suffering because you're surviving. And you look at all these things outside. Oh my goodness, why is the world like this? Why is the world like this? To show you exactly what you have inside yourself that is bringing you into disharmony. That's why. And you need to look at all these things within yourself and you transform yourself. Like that little Rubik's Cube game, that little cube where you're shifting the colored tiles to create a harmonic where the tiles are color coordinated. Well, that's what you're doing right now. But your Rubik's Cube is all scrambled. Different tiles placed in different places and everything out of alignment. And as you start to shift yourself, the Rubik's Cube of yourself now starts to shift into appropriate, harmonized, proportional color coordination. Now everything feels aligned. That chaos isn't outwards anymore because everything relating to that chaos within has been harmonized. It's been brought into surrender. It's been discharged. And now as you have experienced discharge, you've experienced surrender relating to all of that. You see how your world changes. It's not about trying to go out here and commit to action and trying to change something outwardly. That's no more different than you trying to take a paintbrush and trying to brush across a movie screen because you don't like to see what's on the screen relating to that image. You can't do anything by painting the screen itself. That image is still going to show. So again, this is where many of you are in an erroneous nature pertaining to how life is. You think you can change something out here, and you can't. You cannot go ahead and draw a smiley face on the mirror when you're not smiling on that mirror. It's not possible. You cannot draw an image on the silver screen when that image is not showing what you're trying to draw. This is what you refer to as your setbacks. So rather than going through these setbacks and thinking that externally, I need to go and change everybody. I need to go and make all of these things changeable outside. You will fail because that's not how reality operates. It is all through you. But when you look at reality itself does not have a projection. It cannot be fathomed. It simply is. But it is the mind itself that is all of the images that are being, shall we say, broadcasted upon reality. Because you've never experienced reality yourself. Reality has no image. Reality has no object. Reality has no form or function to which you could understand. Reality simply is. It's like calling the reality and the self the same thing. So the whole idea here, in a nutshell, is not to concern about what is taking place through the screen that the mind is broadcasting its image on upon reality. It's about the idea that you are the only one who is changeable, and that through your own changeability, you can make everything happen, because you're letting go of everything that you know is untruthful, that is false, that again is all based upon survival and suffering. And you only look at those forms pertaining to survival and suffering because they're ignorance. There has been no shedding of light that is helping you understand that it is not about me trying to change what's out here. It's about me living from what's in here. And I am the only changeable one, because all there is me. I've never experienced another perception. My perception has always been my perception. You've never experienced the perception of another. How could you change that to which you have never experienced the perception of? You can't. Your perception is the only perception that is. So therefore, you are working together with your perception. You see, we say these things, but we ask you the question, do you actually start listening? And do you actually start going within? And do you start transforming yourself from within? Are you creating the inner alchemy? Because that's what's going to bring you into living and not surviving. So focus on you. Be you. And as you are being you, you will see your world changing, because you've never experienced another world. You've never experienced another's perception, because there is no other perception. There's only ever yours. It's how it's always been, how it will always be. There is no other perception other than yours. So how do you expect to change somebody else when you don't even know their perception? You've never experienced another. That's what we're saying. It all begins with you. Shift the Rubik's Cube into the color coordinated harmony that you are, so that you're clearing away falsehoods, so that you're clearing away untruths, so that you're clearing away deception, so that you're clearing away illusion, so that you realize who you really are. When you realize who you really are, the last thing you're concerned about is survival upon this planet. The last thing you're concerned about is other people's welfare. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to change them? You can't. Are you going to change the world? You can't. You're working with yourself, and you're being that shining light example of someone who has worked with themselves, who has realized the peace that they are. And you're going through the world in that way, through that perception. That is the true advantage of why you're here. Be here for you. Harmonize yourself. And when you see reflections of yourself coming to you, treat them as you would treat yourself. Do you not have the golden rule on your planet? Treat others as you would like to have been treated by yourself. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, there you go. It all starts with you as the perceiver. All right? That's what we want to leave you with. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Maria, for your question. We're now going to move over so those can ask their questions live. Moving over to Deb. Deb, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please remember to unmute your microphone and begin speaking whenever you are ready. Thank you. Go ahead, Deb. Okay, Deb, I'm sorry. For the sake of time, we are going to move on. We will make an attempt later to try and come back to you. I apologize. So we move along now to Gail. Gail, once again, going to allow you to talk. Please remember to unmute your mic and speak when you're ready. Thank you.
Hello, Killian. Thank you. Hello and welcome back, Adronis. And thank you, Brad, for making these transmissions possible.
Hello, Gail. We thank you.
It means everything to interact and get answers from someone who sees the bigger picture, even if it's your perspective. It just means everything. So questions, a lot of questions. Okay, let's start with,
So let's just keep it to 3 questions, just so we have opportunity for others to share as well, right?
Okay, so
thank you.
So you're sharing with us, and I know we're only seeing reflections of ourselves, but we're moving into the next higher level or whatever. We're supposed to be transferring.
Well, you are moving into the next level.
To the
Yes,
next
you cannot
level.
speak for others, you speak for yourself.
Right.
Because you're the only perceiver, you see.
Right, but when we hear, we say they want as many to come along as possible. So I know I'm in.
But that's the whole idea. There are no many, there's just you. You see, so when you're looking at your own perception, even though there are those who say many because they are talking as a reflection, yes, but really it's all coming down to you, because we cannot generically uplift ourselves all at the same time because we're unique. It's that uniqueness that makes us, shall we say, the unique perspective that we are, so that you only understand I am that unique perspective. So we would say, yes, you, Gail, are moving further up because that is, shall we say, in alignment to what you wish to be.
And what about the collective consciousness?
That's not your responsibility. The whole idea of the collective in that sense really just comes back to you. You're still looking at the idea of otherness and manyness, because that is a diversity rather than looking at the unity. You see, from a much grander perspective, the collective to what you would know is already together. But when you're looking at your physical reality, you see the idea of feeling that people are separate, that people are just wandering to and fro, and they're doing all these things, and people are low, and people are mid-level, and people are high. And that's what you're perceiving through the outside world. What we're telling you, though, is that the collective is already one. There is no diversity, there's only unity. The perceptions that you are working with is all part of the game that you are playing to help you understand yourself, that through what you see as manyness truly is just the one.
Well, well, my perception was that, okay, I'm playing in my own sandbox of creation, but
yes,
like all the sandboxes are in the playground.
But you cannot see all the other sandboxes. There's only yours, because you're the only one who can manipulate your sandbox. You can't go to another and manipulate their sandbox because you don't know their perception. You only know your perception.
Then why would I write the books that would help people understand if I'm
because people are you and you are the people. You see? So the whole idea is that when you see another person, that's your perception. When you see your mom, your dad, that's your perception. When you see your brother and your sister, that's your perception. When you see your best friend standing right in front of you, that's your perception. When you see your spouse directly in front of you, that's your perception. When you see your children right in front of you, that's your perception. When you see an event taking place on the news on your television screen, that's a perception. Everything that you experience is your perception. You think that there's all these people, there's Adronis, there's 6, 7, 8 billion people on the planet here. That's your perception. Your perception is telling you that. But what we're saying is that everything that you understand the all to be really is just you as the one. So you're working with this from a vantage point where you're looking into the physicality and you're seeing the many. All right, that's fine. But we're telling you that that's not what truly is. Everything is already in union because you have moved yourself to the lower degree of the barometer where it gives the appearance of feeling that something is not in union. But when you move yourself up the barometer a lot more, you realize how everything just converges back to the one. There really is only one infinite being that exists, to which you term as God, to which you term as the self, to what you term as Purusha, to what you term as Brahman, to what you term as Allah, whatever you may call it. It's all the same thing. It's all the same oneness. That's the idea. So the more that you go down the barometer, you create the perceptions of manyness. But when you move further up the barometer scale, you realize that everything is converged as one. And that everything that represents the manyness is just all of the fractals pertaining to yourself. It's no more different than looking at a fractal painting. You see all these different fractals, you see all these different veins, you see all these different geometries. But when you move up the scale, those geometries converge back into the one. That's how it works. There's only ever your perception.
Right. So I understood it that it's like a dream. My soul is having a dream of me, and the only one dreaming is my soul of me. So we're the connection.
Well, we would
I'm
say it's a
supposed to be.
dream within a dream. That's the
A
idea.
dream. Okay.
Or a
Also-
dream within a dream within a dream.
Okay. So let's go deeper to the beginning when you say okay, humans started on Lyra. That was our first place. I think we had transmissions before where you went into the
Well,
other.
humans did not start on Lyra. They say is what you would know as a human group or human groups that originated from that star, to which you would term as the ancestors.
Okay,
So
yeah,
what
'cause
you would know as a star ancestors, you as your own human being is a unique being, you see? Because again, you converge yourself and you have, as you would say, the DNA of the entire universe within you. We have talked about the idea of what you would know as the 22 different extraterrestrial races. Yes, and that is a lineage there. The whole idea of really representing yourself is that everything that exists in this universe is existing within your DNA. This is what we call the DNA dimensions. And basically, humanity contains all of the intelligence that represents this design of the universe within yourself. You are compatible with everything in this universe, and magnetism makes that happen.
So, but to Earth, let's go to Earth now. So the females, the androgynous.
So this will be the last question for your
Okay.
interaction.
Okay, so the androgynous females that came, so it was female first. It wasn't God and Adam. It was female.
Well, we cannot really say what you would say to what you would term as first. In a certain linear fashion, that is true. But again, from where we exist, everything is simultaneous. There is no first.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Adronis. Thank you. I did have many more, but I'll put them in through the Q&A.
All right, we thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Gail. Okay, Deb seems to have her mic working. We're going to try again. Deb, go ahead, and I'm going to allow you to talk. Go ahead and unmute yourself and talk when you are ready. Thank you.
Hi, Brad. Hi, Adronis. Hi, Killian. Thank you for your patience with me.
Hello, Deb. Yes.
I just have two areas of inquiry. May I inquire, please, about my work direction as well as my living situation?
What do you mean your work direction in regards to where you want to focus yourself?
Yeah, I would really like to be doing more spiritual healing work with my crystal Vogel wand.
All right, so what's stopping you?
I'm just kind of taking that step forward, and I've just recently relocated to a new area of the state I'm in, and I'm starting that work now.
We could not hear that last part. You are moving to where?
I just moved about 7 months ago to a different part of the state.
All right.
And so I'm relatively new where I'm at, and I'm just starting that work. But I wondered about your thoughts on that, and I have to move in a few months again. So I just thought I would ask you to touch upon those two.
Do you remember what we talked about relating to the perception of walking out in nature and not feeling that you have to be the busybody? Well, this again is what we're talking about, is that when you are inspired to do the work that you do, you will require everything that you need to have to make that work very fruitful and abundant. The whole idea in that sense is that there's still distractions within yourself that are not making this idea of what you want to do the priority. You have other priorities. You have other things that are taking up your time. You have other, as you would say, holds upon yourself. And that's what you have to learn to take down. If you want to work together in working with this healing, you want to make it paramount, which means that every moment that you are thinking about this, you're making it happen. So you're letting everything pertaining to ideas, pertaining to concepts come to you. So maybe that involves walking in the park and enjoying nature and feeling inspired and saying, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to these groups. I'm going to go to these organizations. I'm going to start passing out cards. I'm going to start creating an internet website, and I'm going to start sharing myself as well too. I'm going to start writing articles. I'm going to start talking on my digital device, and I'm going to start sharing this with others. I'm going to start giving samples out to what I can do to talk to people, because here I am just planting seeds with everything that I'm doing. But if I feel like I'm being held in many different directions, it's going to be very challenging for me to accomplish that. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting away the cobwebs that are telling me, oh, I need to take care of this, or I need to take care of that, rather than focusing on what you know you want to focus on. So therefore, as you start planting these seeds, everything comes to you. People come to you. Opportunities come to you. The ability to travel comes to you. Expansion comes to you. Because that's what you are constantly envisioning with yourself. And you're letting the fruits of your action continue to make this happen. Now a garden of capability comes through you. Do you see?
Yes, and I have started doing several of those things just.
Yes. And so the whole idea is that you're knowing people will come to you. If I'm doubting that no one's coming to me, then that's what's causing segregation to this manifestation. If I know that all the seeds I'm planting in the field are going to grow into something magnificent, they will. But if I keep feeling that I'm distracted by all these other things that are causing segregation to my manifestation, then that will happen.
I understand. So do you think that I'm working for another company 4 days a week, and I've been thinking about cutting that back? But
we're talking about you following what your heart wants you to follow. We're not talking about you getting involved with something not to make ends meet, because that's survival. We're talking about you living, not surviving. Because you think you have to pay bills. You think you have to pay this, and I got to pay rent, and I got to pay bills, and I got to do all this, and you're back in survival mode, and here's the autopilot again, grinding the gears. Whereas we're telling you, go out into nature, go out into feeling energized and revitalized, and come back and start planting those seeds. Plant those magic beans so that you have a giant beanstalk coming up. You see? That's the whole key. You have to be faithful to your own manifestations, because you're holding yourself back. This is what we're talking about, is you have all of these other holds upon yourself. It's like all these other tendrils are wrapping around yourself that you don't want. Why are they there? Because of your beliefs, because of your untruths, because of your falsities, because of what you think life is, which it isn't. And that's what you're cutting away. You're pruning away those holds, those binds, those shackles on you, so that you are now shackleless. And now all that remains is your joy in being able to be this healer. And you are provided for in all the grand, abundant ways that you wish to be, because that's what you're putting your energies upon. That's what you're putting your perception with. I will go out and I will plant seeds in the field, and I will make this magnificent. It will be wonderful. It will be divine. People will come to me, and I will be so busy and so happy and so enjoyable helping others in this way, because that is the fruit of my faithfulness. And that's what's going to make the difference, you see.
I do understand that. It's just kind of scary to cut some
No,
other
see,
cord.
that's the whole idea. You go back again. You let the tendril hold you again. Oh, because it's scary, because it's there. Why is it scary? You're making it scary. There's nobody here to make it scary for you. You're the only one making it scary. So that is what you need to look into when you're pruning away these tendrils that are holding you in regards to giving you these false ideas. You are becoming addicted by the falsehoods, by the untruths of yourself. You keep thinking you're going to get harmed. Harmed by what? By your own thoughts, by your own perceptions. That's why you got to prune these away. You're pruning the garden. You're pulling out the weeds by their roots and taking them out, so that all that remains is a clean, sanitized, beautiful garden that you have personally maintained. Rather than thinking you're getting overtaken by the weeds. Oh my goodness, there's weeds. What do I do? And you're, instead of running around in circles, screaming your head off, you now take action and you're looking into the source of that weed. You're pulling it out. And now all that remains is the beautiful fruitfulness of your garden. This is what you're all doing. You're just learning to be gardeners for yourself. Rather than panicking because you see these weeds coming up, deal with them. Resolve them. How do you do that? You surrender to them. You let them go. You realize you're the only one that's been giving them power in the first place. And you let that go. And now that power returns to you. And now you utilize that power to make a fruitful garden happen. It's all through surrender. It's all through letting go. It's all about knowing that you are already free. Do you see?
Okay.
That is what's going to change things. As long as you're in fear, as long as you're in any particular form of bind, that's you relying on the ego, that autopilot that's going to, in some particular point, crash you into a wall. Because it's not an intelligent autopilot. It's nothing but falsehood. It's nothing but illusion. Stop giving power to that which sabotages you and come into your true being to let your garden be fruitful. You see, that's the key.
Understood.
We thank you for your question. Let us move on to the next question.
Thank you, Deb. We're going to do one more raised hand and then move back to the written questions. So Catalin, if you want to go ahead and I'm going to unmute you, or I'm going to allow you to talk. Make sure you unmute your mic and then begin speaking when you are ready. Thank you.
Hello, Adronis, and hello, Killian. I like your energy.
Hello, Catalin. Welcome.
My first question is, what is the higher mind and what is it doing?
Well, it's not about doing anything because the higher mind requires you. The higher mind is nothing but an instrument. It's a construct. So when you're looking at the nature of the mind itself, even not looking at the idea of a higher or a lower, but just the mind itself, it is the extroversion that has therefore been manifested through the preference of thought. So it is an unfoldment. There truly is, as you would term, the self. And through the self, there is, as you would say, absence. When the idea of a thought comes together, it folds upon itself and through the ether creates the nature of what you term as thought magnetism. And it is through that thought magnetism that, again, through the mind, has all of these faculties like the rung of a ladder. You have the top rung and you have many other rungs below it altogether that represent greater depths pertaining to the exploration of the mind. But it is an externality of the self. That's what the mind is. It's an externality construct of the self that is triggered through the nature of thought. So therefore, when you're moving into, as you term, the higher mind, you are able to see the entire blueprint. You are able to see the idea plane of the higher mind, to which you refer to as the causal. Now, again, through the causal, there is that of what you would term as the reasoning domain. It is like a blueprint reality where everything interconnects with everything else. And then you go lower and lower and you move into the astral planes where everything again is thought manipulation, where everything in that sense pertaining to form is formed through thought. And then again, you go deeper and deeper into the physical plane, which is just a modified version of the physical plane, of the astral plane, we should say. So again, that's the nature, the blueprint of the mind. The mind is nothing but the self externalized through a construct that you term as mind.
So it's I don't see it like an instrument. I see it like you said, the essence of who we are.
Well, see, the mind itself cannot think on its own. It doesn't have that capability. This is why we say it's much more of a prop. It's a construct. It's an intelligent design. It is not the idea that it can think upon its own because the mind doesn't have that capability. It is a design. You are the intelligence. You have never even been touched by the mind ever. This instrument has because it exists within the mind. It is a construct that has been formed through the materials of the mind to make it what it is. But you as consciousness, you as divine intelligence, have never been touched by the mind. Think of it in the idea of the picture that you see back here. Can you envelop yourself into that picture? Can you actually mold yourself and be touched by everything that is in that picture, that flower of life you see behind? Can you do that?
Yes.
No, you can't. Because this is nothing relating to a creation that you have. It can't touch you. It cannot have its way with you. It cannot be sovereign with you. It is your own creation. As it's your own creation, It came through you. It came through your deeds. It came through your actions. It came through your intelligence. But you see, the intelligence is not phased by you creating that. So this is what we're saying, is that the mind cannot touch intelligence, but intelligence can touch the mind because intelligence is responsible for the mind being what it is. It's the same thing with that. It's because of you that that picture exists. You created it. You manifested it. You took actions into being, and through your intelligence, you cultivated that. The mind cannot cultivate itself. It's not possible. It's a design. It's a construct. It's a picture on the wall that you have designed through intelligence. But your intelligence is not at the mercy of that design. Your intelligence is. It's unfazed by anything that exists materialistically or mindfully. This is why you have, as you would say, the soul. And the soul in that sense is not touched by the mind. You can say the soul, you can say spirit, you can say God, you can say the self, but none of that is touched by the mind. But everything that makes the mind what it is returns to intelligence, because the intelligence is the birth. It is the first cause that is responsible for the mind being what it is. But the idea of the mind is that it can never touch intelligence because it doesn't know intelligence. Just like that particular picture that was created doesn't know you. That's the idea. The mind can never know God. It can't, because God is its creator. You are the creator of the mind. The mind can never know you. It doesn't know how it's created because it's a creation. But you know how it's created because you are the creative. You are the intelligence, unfazed by the mind. A creation cannot hold sovereignty over its creator. It's not possible. Now, you can dive into everything representing the exploration of those dimensions, and you can do that because you're the creator of that picture. And so therefore you can dive into the mind and you can have all these explorations of the mind as well too, but the mind can never dive into you because you're infinite intelligence, your consciousness, your God. It can never dive into you. This is why, again, as it is said quite commonly in the Bhagavad Gita, all beings return to me in oneness, but I am not one with all beings, says Krishna. And the reason why that is being said is because God is the creator of all things. All things are one with God, but God is not one with all things. Because again, the mind cannot know itself because it does not have that luxury. It is a creation. It is not the idea of it thinking for itself and trying to envelop you. Can't be done. You see what we're saying?
Yes. So the higher mind has the qualities of being.
It is the blueprint to what you would understand as the mind. It is the interconnectedness. It is looking into the idea that all ideas, that all concepts relating to mind exist within the causal. The higher mind and the causal are one.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to relate a higher mind with the mind.
It's all the same thing. The higher mind is the mind. The lower mind is the mind. It's all just looking at a sphere. You can cut the sphere into many pieces, but it's still the mind.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
All you're doing is you're looking at it from the top floor to which the elevator brings you. And that's the causal. The higher mind and the causal are one and the same. That is the higher mind. It's like the membrane that holds itself around the sphere of the mind. It's the architectural domain representing the mind to function in the way that it does. It's the core of it.
So the mind comes to life in the presence.
It's not that it comes to life in that sense. The mind in that sense only exists because of externality of the self. The mind truly isn't even really it. It's not really, as you would say, the real. It's not. It's a construct. Just like you have these material items around you. You think that they're a physical construct, but they are not the real. The only real is you as intelligence, as consciousness. That's the only real that there is. Anything else is a tool. It is an extremity. It is, in that sense, a construct, a design, a picture on the wall. You've made it into what it is. But the mind is not the truth. The mind is not the real, because the mind doesn't know God. It doesn't know who you really are. So therefore, the mind cannot be an appropriate medium to understanding God. To know God, you must go beyond the mind. You must be intelligence. That's how you know God. God is not a vibration. God is not a frequency, because that's all mind. God was a frequency. That's not really God.
I got it. I got something very precious from your answer. Very, very good. Yeah, I got something. My second question is, I have bought a crystal, and it has some bluish tips, very nice crystal, but it came with some smell, and I asked them, they said it's like a substance for like a protective layer. But I tried to wash it, soak it into water with
you may want to consider working with apple cider vinegar.
Yeah, I was thinking of that.
You want much more of an acidic compound to assist with that, as you would say, potency of the smell.
So if I clean the crystal with the vinegar, can I use it? Because
yes.
I don't want to use it because I think.
What is your function? What do you wish to utilize the crystal for?
Just for it brings me presence.
No, it does not bring you presence. You bring you presence.
Through the crystal, yeah.
No, not through the crystal. You are the only one that brings you presence. See, that is an erroneous impression. The crystal is not capable of giving you presence. What the crystal is doing is it's radiating a particular type of energy that you can bestow upon it, and it's functioning as an amplifier, but it is incapable of giving you a present. That's like, again, the example we gave of you trying to dive right into the picture to think that the picture has a hold on you. It doesn't. The crystal doesn't. An object can't do that, you see? It's only being an amplifier because of what you program into it. It's a prop and nothing more.
Exactly. So this is what I want to use it to.
Then that's basically what we would suggest, is that you're cleaning it through an acidic compound. And then if you decide to program it in that way, to where you're putting a thought into it that represents itself as an appropriate amplifier, then that's what you can do.
So I can still use it.
We already told you that.
Super good. That's pretty much. Do you have anything else to communicate with me before?
You tell us. Do you have anything that we want to communicate with you too?
Just send me some love, and that should be enough for me.
It is done. It is given. It is always given. There's not one single one of you that we do not love. It's all love, because it's all us. It's all you. You see.
I appreciate your presence and your coming here. Thank you very much.
We thank you for your interaction. Questions?
Thank you, Catalin. We're going to move back on over to the written Q&A section. We move now to Kelly, who says, "Hi, Adronis. I'm looking to find out if I am a Sirius Starseed. If so, am I already communicating with my soul tribe on a certain Patreon group I've been a patron of for a few years, or should I be looking elsewhere? Many thanks."
You see, when you understand yourself to be a quote-unquote star seed of any type, when you're looking at yourself in that particular way, if you are oblivious to the connection, then the truth is you're not communicating with anybody. You see, it's not about the idea of thinking, oh, Adronis, I'm a Sirius Starseed. Have you had any connection? No, but I just feel I am. And that doesn't matter. If you really want to connect with the Sirians, to which we represent, then you want to have an interaction that you understand is consciousable, to which you would understand that you are able to reflect with. It doesn't help you to work together with all these things to which you are not consciously aware of, to wonder if you're part of these things. You have to remember, as we have stated, remember the library analogy, that you are right in front of the library and every single book on the shelf is you. You have access to everything through the great mind. You have access to Sirius. You have access to Mars. You have access to Venus. You have access to Alpha Centauri. You have access to the Pleiades. You have access to Arcturus. You have access to Lyra. You have access to all these different places, but you're rather looking at all the idea of saying, well, I don't have these unique interactions, but I realize I'm part of them. So what you're doing is you're starving yourself of the experience. If you want to have that connection as a Sirian starseed, have the experience with it. Don't just go and feel like you need to assume from somebody else, oh, yes, you're a part of this. Oh, okay, that's all I need. No, that's not your experience. You are basing this on assumption. If you want to have a connection with your star family that is Sirian in nature, have an experience with them. Don't just go running off and thinking that somebody who's connecting with the Sirians themselves is going to tell you this, and then that's going to be your satisfaction. You are robbing yourself an experience by doing that. It is about looking into the nature of what Sirius means to you and really giving yourself the palpable experience of how you know that you're connected to them. Not just feeling like you have some type of delight because somebody who connects with a Sirian is telling you that you have a connection with Sirius when you've never experienced it yourself. We want you to experience this yourself so that you know. It's like the idea of saying, oh, could I be a painter in this lifetime? Oh, yes, you certainly could. Oh, okay, that's good enough for me, but I'm not even going to experience painting. That robs you of an experience. Rather, if you're so intrigued by painting, what's stopping you from performing the act? Fear, really. Nervousness, anxiety. I just want to know that I could be a good painter. It's the same analogy. How about you go and you get a canvas, you get some paint, you get a paintbrush, you get a palette, and you start painting. And now you know that you're a painter rather than what you're being told. It is that feeling of being told that robs you of experiences that can greatly accentuate yourself to a grander degree. It's getting out of this mentality of being told things because you think that brings you some type of satisfaction, and it's nothing but being skin deep. If you truly feel that you wish to be connected to the Sirians, and that you actually have that, that is what you want to move towards. I am going to feel what it's like to be a Sirian within my mind. I'm going to feel what it's like to connect to the dog star. I'm going to tether my heart directly to that star, and I'm going to feel it and experience it myself. Now you get it. Now the reward is there because you've experienced it, not just because you're being told these things. You've actually experienced it for yourself, and that's the reward. That's what's going to bring about delightfulness to yourself. Rather than having all these people coming to you and say, oh yeah, you're a Sirian starseed, you're a Pleiadian hybrid, you're this, you're that, you're the other thing. And you've never been able to grant that experience to yourself, and you have just robbed yourself of it by having faith in being told something rather than actually having the joy of the experience to actually meld it into yourself, to know. It's why you're on this planet. It's why you're here on this world, so that you can savor the experiences that come by being here. And by doing these things and having experiences rather than just being told, which means nothing, which means nothing. It is to have these experiences and to know that you are that for you to truly realize the fruitfulness of yourself. You see, that's the key. All right. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for your question, and Adronis, thank you for the answer. We move on now to Fatima, who asks, hi, can you speak more about what happens to souls who transition? I have heard that some souls go through a healing phase before they reunite with loved ones who have passed already. My mother passed suddenly with no exact cause of her death. Has she reunited with my father, or is she going through a healing phase?
You
Thank
see, if we are to be technical here, the soul is never at a loss. The soul never wanders. The soul never gets lost, because it is not the soul that occupies the body. It is more so in the idea that the body occupies the soul. You see? The soul itself is not personally coming in and imprinting itself in some particular way physically in your body locally so that you can understand what the soul is. The soul does not even experience life as you understand it. When you're looking at the idea, when you leave your body, you are looking at yourself as an aspect. You are looking at yourself as that particular type of personality consciousness. And that's what you are. You're looking at yourself as what we would term as an entity. But you're not actually looking at yourself as a soul. Many of you don't even know what a soul is. The soul is witness consciousness. It is the witness body. It is what witnesses everything, but it does not involve itself at lifetimes. The personality consciousness does that. The entity of yourself does that. So that's what's happening. This is why you could look at it in the idea of a wayward entity, but not the soul. The soul doesn't wander. You cannot destroy the soul. You cannot injure the soul. You cannot hurt the soul, because the soul exists beyond the mind. The mind is the construct. The soul is what and who you are. But when you're looking at yourself as a personality consciousness that is wandering, it's because you have that identity. You're still identified. You're still transfixed to what you think life is. And that's why there's an imprint. This is why there are great masters who have been able to give up and surrender their entire personality, so that when the physical body does leave, they go right to the soul. They go right back into witness consciousness. But because you leave an imprint of what you believe reality is through identifying with this life, that's why you would understand yourself to be a wayward being, or as you would say, a lost soul, but you're not really lost. You see? When you leave this body, all that you know is this life. That's what you have been imprinted upon. And you're still trying to figure things out. Now, are there guides that can help you? Yes. Are there angels who can help you? Yes. Are there other forms of intelligences that represent yourself that can help you all the time? But you have to ask for that help. You want to get out of your misery. And so it really is no more different than when you were in the body, because you still create a mold. You create a mold of a reflection of personality. Let's say, for example, that Jimmy here has left the body because the body has died. Jimmy still knows himself to be Jimmy. There's no change. The only difference is that Jimmy now realizes he's not in his physical body anymore. And he's just simply interacting in the astral psychic plane to where he feels he's still the body, until he starts rendezvousing with others who are telling him otherwise, so that he can therefore be re-educated and brought back into a state of purity where he is learning to dissolve the personality consciousness that he knows as Jimmy. And so he has guides, he has helpers, he has assistants to helping him with that. And as he learns to let go and more of the personality, he starts to lift himself up higher. He starts to move up into the higher planes, to what you would term as the mind, because he's still buckling himself to exist within the mind, because he is given the value and identification that he is still a mindful, wayward entity. So it's the idea of everything that you know yourself to be is nothing more than a codex. It's a codex of an entity, personality, consciousness. But it's not who you really are. But nonetheless, you're still functioning in that body. It's just another body. Because you still see yourself as that personality. You still see yourself as Jimmy. You still see yourself with all of your tendencies. You still see yourself with all of your emotions, with all of your feelings. But as you start to lighten up a lot more, you're able to see a grander perception of reality, because you're letting go. You're trimming the fat. You're peeling off the layers of yourself. So what happens to a majority of people on the planet is that they often get in shock. because their physical body has died. But when they learn to realize that they have now passed the body, they have guides, they have helpers, they have loved ones, they have angels that are coming to them to help to reintegrate and re-educate themselves back into who they truly are. And this is where certain beings, certain entities can go off into what you would term as heavenly worlds, where these worlds feel divine, they feel extravagant, they feel luxurious, they feel lighter. And you're able to spend as much time in those worlds as you wish, but in order for you to get to those worlds, you've had to peel off quite a few layers. So a lot of these layers pertaining to identity, to the suffering that you still hold within yourself, because you're identifying yourself as a wayward personality consciousness, still exists. And as long as that still exists, you will still create the mold of life in that fashion. It's just getting out of one body and coming into another body, but everything that represents the essence of your personality and identity remains until you start peeling it all off. When you start peeling it all off, you now go further and further up the ladder, pertaining to different frequency domain dimensions, moving up into higher astral planes, as it were. Even going all the way up into the causal. And for those who are able to completely peel themselves off, leaving the mind altogether and returning back into the self. That's how it works. That's how it operates. Because all you're really doing is you're leaving a physical body, but the essence of your personality and identity is still intact. It doesn't just go anywhere. It's not just going to leave you like a virus. It's part of your codex. It's part of the very database, as it were, that represents yourself as you identifying yourself as a person, identifying yourself as an entity, as a personality consciousness. And you can stay with that personality consciousness for as long as you wish. There's no rules here. If you still see yourself as Jimmy, then Jimmy can exist for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of years. It's up to you. But there will come a point where you'll get these reminders. Are you ready to peel off more of these layers? Are you ready to go back into incarnation again so that you can see through a microscope the greater depths of yourself that helps you to understand more of yourself? And that's up to you to answer. So when a loved one has left their physical body, they're still in a body. They still identify themselves as their personality type, as their personality consciousness. And that is what we term as an entity. That's our perception of it. So when your mother has passed on through the physical body, she's still an entity. She's still here. But she's existing in a different domain that is not compatible with the physical domain that you are aware of, because she no longer has an instrument to work with through this domain. She's existing in other domains that is, again, completely and totally compatible with her form as she knows herself to be, as a wayward entity. That's the idea. Are they getting help? All the time. Their loved ones will come to them. And you may have, in that sense, the grandchildren, the grandfather, the grandmother of this grandchild that is coming to them. Parents that is coming to them. Best friends who have also left their physical body that is coming to them. That's helping them out. They are always getting assistance, but as we said, you have to ask for it. It's just something that's there. Oh my goodness, I wish I could see my parents. All of a sudden your parents are there. Oh my goodness, I wish I could see my grandparents. All of a sudden your grandparents are there. And so on and so forth. It's based upon the, shall we say, the stars aligning. And now that person has the assistance because they still are a person, because they still look at themselves as a personality. And that is them being an entity. But it is not the soul. The soul is not touched. It is not phased by anything that happens in the mind. It is the eternal witness. It is the eternal observer. It cannot be phased. It cannot be touched. It cannot be destroyed by anything that exists in the mind, because it's the painter of the mind. And it cannot be phased by that. So that is what we can share in regards to this understanding. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Fatima, for that question. We move on now to our final written question before we move over again to the raised hands. This one comes from David. Could you give us a better idea of who or what Lucifer is? Are the stories from the Bible a true reflection of him? If not, could you please give us some insight? Much
You have
love.
to understand first and foremost, Lucifer is you. Everything is you. When you're looking into the nature of the Bible, it is an occult book to helping you understand the nature of your own inner being. That's what it represents. Many of you take it way too literally, and that's where you become erroneous. The idea of Lucifer, even as Lucifer is depicted in the Bible, is not Satan. Lucifer is not a devil. Lucifer is the idea of one who has fallen from heaven, coming into physicality. Well, that's the story of you. You have come down from heaven and come into physicality to work together in remembering who you are. And Lucifer represents much more of a feminine energy and not that of a masculine. That again is a misperception. Lucifer and Satan, Lucifer and the devil are not the same. And a lot of people are confused by this. It is the story of you. It is your falling from heaven. It is your descent from heaven to come into physicality, to be here, to understand more of who and what you are under the microscope of the perception of you being here. Because when you come into a dimension like this, a physical dimension like this, it's like looking at everything under a microscope, because everything's so dense and everything is so intricate and so solid and so physical. It's a microscopic view of helping you to understand a greater clarity of yourself so that you let go of all these things that represent the tendencies of why you felt you have come here in the first place, so that you move yourself back up into the kingdom once again. But many of you take this literally, and it's not to be taken literally. It is occult code. That is how the occultists in the ancient times would hide their knowledge. They would use parables. They would utilize these stories that, again, have certain elements of truth to them, but they're utilizing the story much more to the degree of the parables of how the raising of man can return to the awareness, the consciousness, the purity of God. It's an alchemical formula, but it's hidden behind codes, because only the initiated were granted this knowledge to understand what the parables are actually saying. Nothing in your Bible should be taken literally at all. It's code. It's all occult code given to the initiated so that they can understand certain alchemical properties within themselves, to helping themselves return back into the godliness of their own being. It's a instruction manual that is teaching you how to know yourself to be God. That's what it's all about. And so it will use these different parables representing different degrees of initiation, to where you get a little higher and you get a little higher and you get a little higher, and then you go into that complete, as we would say, full experience, where you know yourself to be God, because you have let go of everything that tells you, I am a mortal, linear, tiny, physical, fragile human being. You let go of all that. And you realize that you are God. And the Bible is being an instruction manual created by occultists and alchemists and prophets, to giving you the idea of those who have initiated themselves to see past the parable of the stories, to realize how through that form of transformation you return to God. That's the entire purpose of the Bible. That's the entire purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. That's the entire purpose of the Quran. That's the entire purpose of the Torah. It's the entire purpose of these ancient, alchemical, occult, spiritual books. Not to be taken literally, because that's actually what, shall we say, completely disassociates the uninitiated with the initiated. The initiated does not take the Bible seriously pertaining to the story and thinking that it's going to be a historical event, because it's not. Whereas the uninitiated will take this literally, and they would be seen as fools to the initiated. It's the initiated who works together, who realizes the parables that represent the specific instruction manuals that the Bible itself, for example, provides to helping you understand your own levels of initiation. That's what it represents. It's an occult coded book. It is not a historical document. It never has been. It will take elements of actual events, but it will put them together in the degree of something that represents a parable that's giving you the lesson of what you need to learn to let go of, so that you can therefore, as you would say, stand at the face of God, so that you can become the Godhead. That's what it's trying to teach you. And that's why there are all these religions upon the planet, and it's all intentional, by the way, because the earth represents a masterful university of learning. It's going to deceive you. Did you know that? Your Mother Earth puts you to the test all the time. She challenges you all the time, and she wants to truly know if you can make it back home to God. This is why Mother Earth is a very tough teacher. Do you think that by accident, none of these things upon her surface were allowed to happen? She's allowed all of these things to happen. She's allowed all of humanity to act in this way because it's all part of the initiation of you going home. She is a loving mother, but she's a strict teacher. This is all permitted upon her surface. Everything that has come together has all been brought forward because this is what she wants from her children. She wants her children to be profound. She wants them to see themselves coming out of a caterpillar, cocooning themselves with the necessary knowledge, and coming out of that cocoon as the masterful, godly butterfly. The earth has set all this up for you. She has set humanity up in this way. It's not been beyond her will. No. Everything in regards to how humanity is all inset together with the logos of the earth. She knows this is what you're like. And she's agreed to host it. That's why you're here. She's a loving mother, but she's a strict teacher. Look what you're doing to each other. Is this not cluing in of what you need to do with yourselves, about how you elevate yourselves, of how you uplift yourself back to God, so that there are gods upon this planet again, not for the first time, again, the children that started off on this planet have become gods. And that's what she's hosting. And she won't stop until her children are gods again. Every single one of you is that. Are you aware of this? Are you? Are you aware that this is the grand stage? Are you aware that your Mother Earth has allowed all of these things to happen with humanity because she knows exactly what you're doing? She's not in the dark about this. You are aware of that, yes? So she's a loving mother, but she's a strict teacher. And that's what she's trying to teach all of you. This is a master class. This is a grand university, as we've talked about before. The earth is well aware of everything that humanity has done, is doing, and will do in the times to come. She's aware of it all. She knows it. It's in her logos to know. You're not surprising her. She knows what you're going to do. She already knows what you're doing. She knows what you have done. She knows what you're doing, and she knows what you're going to do. That's why she hosts you here. To be that strict teacher, but at the same time, that loving mother. So we went a little more deeper than the idea of just talking about Lucifer. We're telling you more about the infrastructure, about where you actually are on this planet. You're here to learn. You're here to return to being a God. Some of you are getting it, most of you are not. But at some particular point, all of you will. All right? We thank you for your question.
Thank you, David, for that question, and thank you, Adronis, for that incredible answer. We now move to some of those with their hands up. Helen, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please unmute your microphone and begin speaking when you are ready. Thank you.
Hello, Adronis. Thank you, Killian. My question is, Brad did a meditation, the 101 episode, and he did one this morning. But in the 101 episode, I was following that one this morning and getting to the being state. I loved how he did that, helping getting to the being state. My question is, then it's like, okay, now you can return. And I'm like, return to what?
Exactly. Return to what? Only what you validate. Everything that you validate. You see, the earth is here because you validate it. Everything upon the earth and everything that represents her intricacies is here because you validate it. It's something that goes beyond the conscious self. You cannot access the conscious self pertaining to those variables. This all comes through the greater component of yourself. You see? So when you're returning back to what you're familiar with. You're returning back to what you validate. You return back to what you identify. You see? But see, Brad is only giving you a sample. For those of you who know that what you're returning to really is yourself, then that's all that you remain with. That's all part in that sense of the intricacies of you knowing yourself through perception. You see?
So in an advanced state, when if I'm in a place and I'm in that state of being, there is no returning back. There is
there is returning. It's returning back to what you know. You see, if you therefore no longer validate anything that the earth represents to you, not through the conscious mind, but through the grandness of what you are, what you return to is what you're familiar with. It's because you've let go of all these concepts to what you think life is, and you realize that's not what life is now. So therefore you return back to what you are familiar with. And if all you're familiar with is the self, then that's where you remain.
Oh, that's a beautiful answer. Oh, wow, that is relieving. Okay, thank you. So then the other question I have is regarding physical body chronic fatigue.
Well, again, this all has to do with, shall we say, wear and tear in the body. You see, take good care of the body and you will not have those symptoms. The body needs to be exercised. The body needs to be fed properly. The body needs to be mineralized. The body wants to make sure that it's getting all the necessary replenishment of energy it needs for all key functions within its system to function appropriately. It's exactly why Brad has created something like etherics.
I
so
love
that you can go into those beds, so that you can wear those clothing, so you can use that mat, whatever it may be, so that your body is being regenerated with the life force energy it requires, so that all key systems within itself are functioning optimally.
So I love the etherics bed, and could we talk a little? Is entities at one time? Yes. Brad was into entities, was speaking about entities.
Well, it's not that we're into entities. There is actually entities. Now, they're not truly the real, but we use that as a convenience tag. You see, that just represents the idea of a personality consciousness. It's just another body. Just as we say, you have a physical human body. Now, truly, in that way, you are intelligence. But in this form of convenience and utilizing this in the way of the mind, we call that a physical human body. Truly, in the way of convenience, we refer to that as a wayward entity. You could also refer to it as an astral entity, however you wish to term it, but it's just a label that is used in the state of convenience to identify another body beyond the idea of the physical, because the physical has now expired.
So in the idea of Brad's image of a little girl who was lost, and he was helping that little girl, go to a different place. Is it possible that someone in a chronic fatigue position has several of those entities of that sort? And the recommendation was oxygen.
That all depends in regards to the validations that you hold that would grant such entities to be coherent in your space. So whatever is on your mind that you validate, as we stated, you return back to what you're familiar with. If you're familiar with hurt, if you're familiar with the idea of being drained, if you're familiar with fatigue, that's what you return to. You see, nothing can exist without your signature on the line. You see, it's everything that you're putting your signature into that represents the validation of what you know reality to be, of what you understand life itself to be. If you feel that you are fatigued, if you feel that there's nothing you can do, that you have to go to external medicine in order for this to be fixed, then it's not going to leave you until you feel like you've tried everything pertaining to external medicine, even though that's not the case. You still hold on to that hope, which means you've created a hope program. So therefore, as you create the hope program, because it is an erroneous idea, you're forgetting that through the idea of yourself as the inner being, everything is curable. But you're not getting yourself into that. You're not letting that signature be signed. You're looking at all these signatures about what can the external world do that will make me better. And that's what you return to. Oh, there's entities coming together and they're feeding off my energy. Then that's what you return to. Whatever you validate, whatever you identify life to be is what you return to, always. Until you personally peel off the layers. Saying, no, I don't need this contract anymore. Cut away. I don't need to feel like I need to look at some type of external medicine to get me better, because internally I'm able to heal myself completely. Cut away. So it's you peeling off these layers. We're not responsible for the layers that you have upon yourself. The world is not responsible for the layers that you are putting upon yourself. You are. Because it's about you seeing the world how you see it. And as you see the world in that way, those are the layers that you bestow upon it. I can't get better unless I do this. I can't get along with this kind of person. I can only be around these type of people. These are all the layers that you're putting on. The world itself is not responsible for that. You are responsible for that based on how you see the world. You see?
I do. So in the listening to Brad also in the episode 101, it was about or maybe you were speaking about this today, the library. There's the library, and then there's books, and
you are able to access everything that the library is all at once. Yes.
All at once. And so if it's possible and you see everything all at once and you see the library, what are we doing here on this earth? We're taking
because that's where the library is.
And then the mind, or not the mind, but then it's having the experience on the earth, which you're choosing to have an experience.
You all
with
came
as
here
God.
because you would know yourselves to receive the benefits of what the earth is trying to show you. It's exactly why you came here. Because the earth is a stage that is giving you what you feel you need. That's why you've signed the dotted line. That's why you've incarnated. That's why you're in a body, because you know the earth will supply this to you. You're not stupid. You didn't just do this because you were bored. You came to this earth because you want to be a god again. That's why you're here, because she's a god world. She manifests the capability of everything that's here so that you know yourself to be God. That's what makes her stand out. She's a God world. She works to bring all life upon her planet into a godliness. And she's well aware of everything that humanity has been doing, because this is all part of the progress that will in time bring everybody back to God. That's the collective way. But as we stated, when you look up the higher nature of the barometer, everything is already in union. When you're going lower, it's like looking at tortoise speed. Everything's moving linearly because you're looking at the lower set of the barometer. When you're looking at the higher set of the barometer, everything is instantaneous, like we just told you. When you're moving into the lower state of the barometer, you're at the state of looking at things linearly.
Thank you. Can I ask, physical alignment with the physical body, if the physical alignment is skewed at least in the physical alignment as of, I guess that would be in reference, a medical reference to the physical alignment of a body, is that does it affect how the person can hold their God state consciousness? Or
Well,
does
that
it?
is basically what creates that idea, because you identify with the body. You see, there are masters who have been able to go back into their God state because they don't identify with the body. They have trained themselves to let go of it. And there are those in that sense that rely themselves upon the body as well too. So as long as you rely upon the body, when it is impaired, you will become susceptible to its impairment through yourself because of your attachment to it. It's not to say that you can't have a healthy body. We certainly recommend that, but it's not being attached to it to the point that when you feel it's injured, that you're injuring yourself on a much more deeper level. That's why your emotions become awry. Your emotions become awry because you're still attached to the physicality. Without the physical body, you think you're going to die. And that again is your attachment to it. So when it is impaired, you sympathize with the idea of it being impaired, and you're impaired. And that's why your mental and emotional body go out of whack, because you're associating too much with the identity nature of the vehicle. It's like when your car gets scratched and now you're freaking out because you got this big scratch upon the driver's side door and you feel like you're ready to pull your hair out. Oh my goodness, do you know how much I spent on this car? Do you know how much this car cost, etc.? And you're having an emotional and mental breakdown of something that's a material item. So that is why the emotional and mental bodies respond in kind together to the physical, because of your identity to it. Your identity to your vehicle. When you get a cut on your arm, when you feel like something is impaired and you're feeling sluggish, you know, oh, I'm so sluggish and this and that and the other thing. And then your emotional and mental bodies get compromised at the same time. It's because you're identifying with the impairment of the physical body. Rather, when you look at the idea that there's a physical injury on the body, you say, it's no problem. I'll patch it up. I'll let it be taken care of. Let it be done. And now your mental and emotional bodies are still in a state of clarity because they're not attaching to the injury. So yes, we suggest you take good care of your body. Yes, we suggest that you're working with it well. But again, when you attach to the physical body, that's how the other bodies that represent the layers of yourself become compromised, because they are attached and identifying with the physical. And that's why you suffer on all the layers. That's why things become chronic. Person who's chronic is attached to the body. Person who's going through severe illness with the body is attached to the body. This is why we say when the masters realized that they were not body, they could have debilitating injuries upon their body and they're still smiling. They're still laughing. They still feel the joy within themselves. Why? Because they don't identify with this physical vehicle. And that's why they're able to be as jovial and as loving and as compassionate as they are, despite the idea that their body is sick, because they're not letting any aspect of themselves be touched by the physical. That's the science behind it. You see?
I do. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Adronis. Thank you.
We thank you for your questions. We are happy to take one last question before we conclude.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Helen, for your question. We move now to Val. Val, I am going to allow you to talk. Please unmute your microphone and begin speaking when you are ready. Thank you.
All right, so Val, only 3 questions maximum, please. Thank you.
Hi, Adronis.
Hello.
How are you?
We are perfect. How are you?
I'm perfect. Well, my 3 questions. What is the color or colors related to my higher self so I can connect and merge with it deeply?
You see, that would limit you. You would limit yourself if you're only seeing yourself based on colors. You see, again, that's just you putting yourself in another box. You think it's your way out, when in fact, we're telling you it's actually your limitation. If you identify with colors, if you identify with words, all right, they can move into certain expansive states. But for you to move into the totality of yourself is to be imageless, is to be formless, is to surrender. The ability to surrender to yourself is what unites you together into the realization of who and what you truly are. Surrender is the way. So if surrender wasn't the way, and if it was all about colors, don't you think that we or Brad would be telling you to visualize a bunch of colors all the time?
Yeah.
That's not the way. You're taking yourself in one box, and maybe it's a big spacious box, but it's still another box again. The key to understanding who you are as the self is through surrender, not through colors. You see?
The other question is the relationship between those interdimensional beings that came to visit me, my higher self and the main chiefs?
Are they the higher self and the main chiefs?
Yes, if there's a relationship between them.
Have you actually connected with them and not talked to them?
No, I'm not.
Then don't assume what you think they are until you actually do that.
Mhm.
Let the facts speak for themselves. It's just like we told the other relating to being a Sirius Starseed. Go and let the experience see it's for itself, so that you know, so that you are enlightened by the experience, rather than being ignorant based on the assumption of what you're being told. What you're being told, and you just blindly following that, is one of the biggest states of ignorance you can ever do for yourself. Do not rely so much on being told by another. That includes us. We want you to go out. We want you to experience these things for yourself, so that you see them for yourselves. Everything that we're sharing here, we're giving you some candy here relating to the words and through the perspective, but we want you to go out and experience these things for yourself so that you know, rather than you just being told. And buying into what being told is ignorance.
Mhm.
Having the experience yourself and enlightening yourself, well, that's the very enlightenment that you wish to have.
Okay.
So be enlightened by your companions. Get to reach out for them. Don't assume. Experience. You see?
Mhm. Yeah. And the last question is, what are the most likely days and hours in the year for the contact window to open with these interdimensional beings?
It's not about the idea of windows. They are able to manifest their own windows to come through to see you. It's about alignment, not the idea of dates.
Okay.
When you represent a certain, shall we say, coherency to which they are compatible with, that window can therefore open again. It's all about the idea in saying that when this person returns back into the mood that is stable for us to see them visiting at their door, that's when we return. Rather than looking so much into the idea about when they're going to return, how about you continue to evolve yourself with enlightened experiences, rather than keeping your eye on the clock, wondering when they're returning, like the idea of waiting for your babysitter. So letting go of that idea, in other words, let them go. Should they decide to return to you, that will be of their own choosing to do so. Rather than you waiting for the clock, keep evolving and expanding yourself, because the only reason they showed themselves to you was as a reminder of what you can move into. They're just giving you a little bit of a sweet reminder of what you can move into relating to their domains. How do you think they're able to do what they're able to do? Because they don't hold the beliefs that you do. And when you start to let those things go, not only will you see them, you will see much more, because you are again peeling away the layers of what you think the reference is pertaining to yourself, that again mostly is erroneous.
Mhm.
So let them go.
Okay.
Surrender to them and evolve yourself through the enlightenment of your own experiences, because that's what's godly. You see?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
And
We thank you. We thank you, Val, for your questions. We thank all of you for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, and we will speak to you again in another perspective of the now. Goodbye for now. All right, great. So, Killian, thank you so much for being the moderator for today's event. I really appreciate it. And everybody, we'll be back again in 2 weeks' time to do another Transmissions from Adronis webinar. I hope you have all enjoyed the transmission today. Adronis was sharing some very deep knowledge with all of you guys, but the most important thing is don't just rely on what you're being told. Investigate, experience it, and let the enlightenment fill you, right? That's certainly my philosophy as well, too, my nature. So thank you again, Killian. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. And again, I'll be back on Thursday and Friday this week for more episodes of New Earth Tarot and New Earth TV Live. Take care, guys. Om Shanti, 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 Namaskar, and may it be well with you. Goodbye for now.